We're back. So let me just take you through a few of the basic elements of how to actually make a Google Map fiction. So we'll start off with just finding the right Google Maps to go to. Now, it can be a little bit difficult to find. So if you just type in Google Maps, you might not necessarily find it immediately. The first step is to log into your Gmail account. So make a Gmail account, log into it. Won't let you do anything unless you're logged in. And then I would suggest that you just simply type in My Maps Google. You can probably just type in My Maps. In fact, here, let's try that. My Maps. Yep, okay, first thing. So just type in My Maps. It kind of needs to be My Maps and not Maps. It's just they have a separate entry point into this particular thing we're going to look at. So make sure you type that in. All right. So we go to My Maps. Here we are. I've already signed in, which is good. So we'll just click Get Started. Now, these are all test ones. These are not actual works. They're just things I've played around with at different times, not for real projects, just for testing things. So don't necessarily think that these are projects of mine, because you know they're not. Anyway, so as you might expect, click on Create New Map. And then once you get into the map interface, it is relatively simple. One thing you want to keep in mind is the way this map looks now is, this is when you start identifying the points that you actually want to have part of this narrative. So I'm just going to introduce you first to the interface overall, and then we can talk a bit more about how to actually make the thing and what kind of elements you might think about, what kind of creative concerns are here, narrative concerns, that kind of thing associated with the map. All right, let's pretend we already have a great idea. In fact, we will go to up close to where we live now. So I'm just going to zoom in here, and I will show you where I am, if I can actually find it. There goes my phone, which is always fun. All right, so we are near Bow Desert, and we're going to move in a bit more. Come on. Come on. And we're in this area called Conungra. Now, I would suggest as you're doing this to get in relatively close when you're doing this. It's not like you can see right now, but I would suggest getting in as close as you can. Now, of course, you can turn on things like satellite view, that kind of thing, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but we're just going to start with this now. All right, so this is the general area where we live. We live near a military base, so maybe we'll have our first point start with that. Okay, so we have these individual points here. Here's our base map. First thing to do is we're just going to give it a title. So we'll call this My World in Conungra. And then obviously come up with this is our creative description. You can, of course, change these things at any time. All right, so we have that. And then the next step is we want to think about, all right, well, let's add some points to this. So again, the idea of this is that we want to create a series of markers or a series of points or areas on the map that when connected together, they will create some type of narrative. All right, so you'll see some options here. Of course, you can go back, you can redo things, you can undo things. We can actually create individual layers. Those layers are good if you have a whole bunch of points and you actually want to organize them in different ways. So maybe I'll actually entitle that as well. So we'll call this Platy. Stands for platypus, actually, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And then you can either import data, which we're not going to worry about that at all now, but you can actually import data if you want. And there's a lot you can do with that if you have large data sets, for example. But instead, we're going to add our own points. So I'm going to go here and go to Add Marker. So you'll see it looks like a little upside down raindrop. And we're going to drag it to a point. There we go. Sorry, click it and then They've changed the interface slightly. I love it when they do that. And we're going to click on the creek here. And here's my first point. And so we'll call this, get there, and we'll call this where Platy lives. Okay, so we have our first point. Now, what can we do here? What are the elements that we can put in here? Well, one is you can add an image or a video. So if we click there, it will give you options of adding an image URL. You can upload your image, which will just load it into your Google Drive. You can include something from Google Drive, obviously. You can choose something from Google, although I would suggest you not do that. I always suggest people use their own work. So I wouldn't suggest you grab something just from Google. You know, make something yourself. And then, of course, you can put in a video. Now, video is limited to YouTube because that is, after all, a Google product. And so they're all integrated together. So I will not put an image in at this very moment, but you can do that. Secondly, you can also just put in text. So we could say, this is where the Platy lives. And this is how much he dislikes the military making loud noises. So I've got a bit of text. I can click save. And I have my little point here. Now we can still do more with this. So for example, we can adjust the styles of it. By styles, what we're talking about is the style is actually the marker itself. So you can see it's a different color now, but what's more cool about it is you can click on more icons and you can actually you can either choose an icon from one of these many here. And this would include, of course, all these, but also you can make your own icon. Now, I find this is something that is really fun for the students to do, and this is something I would like for you all to do. So you can make your own icon and put it into this work. Now, I would suggest the icon be something obviously connected to the narrative, but it can also, it could be anything really. But it does probably have a few limitations. One is size. Icons need to be small. And they can't be giant things, otherwise they'll just cover up the map. So for example, if I go to custom icon and I do a Google image search, which again, you shouldn't do, but I'll just do it anyway. And let's say I type in donkey, and here's a picture of a donkey, and I'm going to select that and click OK. And there's this tiny donkey that I can barely see, right? But still, I have an icon, and it's specific maybe to a narrative. If the donkey had something to do with the platypus, well, then that would fit. And then if you want to go edit it again, you just click on the pencil and you can edit it again. I think you can also do a bit of HTML. If not, I will just edit this out. But I think you can. Let's try it. No! Why does it not let me do HTML? Why not? And the marker can be anywhere, by the way. So you can click back on the hand and we can go anywhere on the map that we want to, anywhere in the world, and you can put another marker in. So I can go to Mount Nathan here, let's say the state forest. I can kind of zoom in a bit. If I want, I can go and I can choose another kind of map. So you can see if I click on base map, you can have satellite view, or you can have a terrain view. Oh, I like terrain view. Maybe I'll stick with that. And so I can either add another marker. So I click that and I can add another marker here. Let's say by the road here in Narang National Park. And maybe I'll say a Platy lives here in a nice house. So we'll call it the Platy House, and this is a fiction about a platypus house. And save it. Again, I can go and click on the marker and I can adjust it. So we can click the style, and maybe this time I will just choose a normal sort of icon. So we'll say it's a cave, and we'll give it a yellow color. Cool. All right, so there's my little cave. Don't want that one. So we have another little point there. We can add a bit of fiction in. But in addition, if you don't like the marker look, you can actually draw a line. So next to the marker is this, but that allows you to add different driving routes or walking routes. But I like the add line or shape. So once you click that, then you can actually go in and add your individual points, and you can actually make it as specific as you want. And then you just join up the ends, and there you go. And so this might be a, we'll call this the Platy Playground, and I shall spell playground correctly. This is where the Platys plays, period, save. And again, I can click here and I can make some adjustments to it. So you can adjust the transparency if you want. So that is completely not. You can do the border width if you want, and they can actually change the color of the border a bit. And so it looks like this. And so that's another point that you can choose on the map. I like these just because I think they look more visually interesting and they identify a larger area, but it's up to you. Let's say we've designed our different project and we have different elements on the map that you can explore. How do you actually share this? Well, you can go to preview, and that will give you an indication of what it looks like. Now, you'll notice here that the preview is giving you a map big enough to see all the individual points. So if you have points from around the world, it's going to show you the entire world when you go to the preview. Once you've saved it, you can actually go to share. And, you know, embedding on my site is probably easier. Oops, I always forget that. You have to actually change the permissions on this. It's automatically set to be private. So once you go to change permissions, you can then just make it public. So I'm going to change that for anyone who has a link, or indeed you can make it anyone. So I'm going to make it anybody with a link. That will enable you then to embed it, and anyone can then see it. So we can copy the link and you can send it to somebody. So we'll click done. Now that we have that, we can go to share and embed in my site. And then actually gives you the embed code, which allows us then to make a very basic HTML page and put it on there. How might we do that, you ask? Well, let's say we copy this code. I don't know, actually, maybe we won't go over how to do basic HTML. If you want, though, I'll just do it quickly. If you want, you can go to something like W3 Schools. And one easy way of doing it is just grabbing a quick HTML template. And here are quite a few. This is just a basic HTML document from there of your head, body, that kind of stuff. And you can always grab that and embed the map in there. In fact, what happens if I just embed it in here and run it? Oh, there it goes. Very cool. Actually works. Maybe. We're waiting. There it goes. Awesome. All right. So that's actually what it would look like. You know, it's not super fancy, but it's fun and it's easy. And you're able to make this kind of interactive fiction using a map and actually thinking about the individual points on the map. So here we go. Oh, look, there it is. So it's automatically styled for a phone, it looks like, which is kind of fun, actually. So it gives you this kind of cool little interactive thing. Oh, yeah, I shoved some HTML code in there. Didn't work. Oh, well. Anyway, so that's how you can make Google Map fiction. All right.